That brings me to what took place on Meet the Press on Sunday. Hugh was one of the panelists. Let me set the stage. I don't know if you saw it or not, but let me set the stage.
I did not. I will not. I know. I have to say this. I know he was on that show. I've said this a million times. I think that show is a sham. I think Chuck Todd is a complete, whacked out, over the top lefty who presents. And and this is part of my thing with Adam Schiff. I don't have a problem with liberals. I don't have a problem with lefties. They are entitled to believe what they believe, and they're entitled to support what they support. What I absolutely can't stand is people who are disingenuous, is people that lie, of people that pretend to be one thing when they are actually another, of people who act like they're standing for something when they stand for another. What drives me crazy about Chuck Todd is he tries to give the impression that he's presenting a balanced show, that balances, and it is not. And every time, I told you I stopped watching it because every time he would say something that was clearly fairly intelligent, they'd cut him off. Or something that was eroding the viewpoint that they wanted to get across, they cut him off. And I don't know how he stands it. To be frank, it's like why I stopped debating Adam Schiff. If all they're going to do is make up stuff or cut you off or do whatever, and you're just there as a shill, so that they make sure their argument wins every single time, then why do I want to participate in that sham? Why do I want to be in that show? Sorry, there's a rant. I'm sure you will not play tomorrow. But that's fair. NBC News drives me absolutely nuts.
I respect that. Now, what I'm going to play for you is 3 cuts to explain exactly why he does it.
Okay, but you asked it, did I watch it? And the answer was no.
Okay.
I never watched it.
So, to set the stage, Chuck is the moderator, who we know leans left of center. I don't know how. I mean,
he leans way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also on the panel is Mark Leibovich, the author of This Town, writer for The New Yorker, also a lefty, but he's a pleasant enough lefty, and he's another one of these guys that you can have disagreements with, but he doesn't deal from the bottom of the deck when it comes to dealing with you personally. He's at least, a respectable lefty. Yamiche Alcindor, who used to be with the New York Times, now is the White House correspondent for NPR. She is a hard lefty. Mm-hmm. And then you had Doris Kearns Goodwin. Okay, so that's the panel.
Oh, she's a historian, right? Supposedly.
One of the preeminent historians has written, she wrote the Team of Rivals book of right. Lincoln. She's a respected historian. She's a lefty, but she's
But Hugh is the token.
He is the token Republican on this set.
The token conservative.
There are a lot of
times. All any of these shows ever do is they throw in a token.
There have been several times when Hugh is paired with somebody like Eliana Johnson, who now runs the Free Beacon. They have done 2-2 splits several times when he's on there. This was a 3-1 split.
They must have not been able to get anybody.
Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, so the featured guest before they went to the panel was the aforementioned Adam Schiff. And so Chuck Todd conducts a 6, 7, 8 minute interview with him. And one of the things that comes out, or 2 of the passages that come out of this, I want to play for you now. Here's the first passage.
Investigation. How your investigation is about the specifics of what the president did with the aid, with Ukraine, with Rudy Giuliani, and how much of your investigation is about the attempt to keep that from you?
Well, I think really the gravamen of the offense here is the president using the power of his office to coerce a foreign nation into helping his presidential campaign to once again interfere in our election, and at the same time withholding foreign aid that country so desperately needs to fight off who? The Russians. That to me is the most serious constellation of issues, and I know that many people have suggested, and it may have been true in the past, that the cover-up is the bigger crime. Sometimes the cover-up is the easier crime to prove, but But here, yes, the cover-up is very serious, but I don't want to lose sight of that fundamental breach of the president's oath of office, the duty to defend our country, our Constitution. And here, the president is once again not just inviting, but coercing a foreign nation to get involved to try to help him in yet another presidential election. So to me, that's the most serious.
So there are 4 different conclusory statements. He's already made up his mind of the crimes that Donald Trump has committed before he's even gavelled in the hearing. He later on went to say this.
Is that the point? Is that why you put that in your release? That basically you're going to take any attempt at preventing somebody from testifying before your committee that you believe legitimately has some information to shed light on what happened. You will treat that as an obstruction of justice?
We will treat that as evidence of obstruction of justice, as evidence of obstructing the lawful functions of Congress, because the president can't have it both ways. He can't both prevent us from getting evidence on these serious underlying crimes or potential crimes, this serious breach of his oath of office, and at the same time obstruct our investigation. So even as he tries to weaken our ability to get facts on one, he's going to strengthen the...
So how many times did you catch him having conclusory statements like he's already made up his mind, John Campbell?
Yeah, like that. It's done. So it's absolutely done. But he's the prosecutor, so he's made up his mind.
He's a
and made his decision. And I noticed, boy, these were tough questions from Chuck Todd. He's
a prosecutor in that
the president gave all this, released the documents, did all this stuff. And were there questions about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden? Probably not.
No, and we'll get to Hunter Biden.
Chuck Todd, man, he's getting to the bottom of this. This is tough.
So that takes place.
I think the press is absolutely complicit in this.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Yeah.
The press is already saying, well, Ukraine has looked into Hunter Biden. There's nothing to see there, and so therefore there's no reason for us to investigate it.
Right.
$50,000 a month, and for having the last name of Biden, and there's no reason.
No, I think I keep changing the name of the press, and now I'm just calling it the Democratic Party propaganda press, because that's what they are. Well, that's all they do. I can't even turn on. I'm listening to music these days, and I can't even turn on the freaking radio. It drives me crazy.
It's the DNC press office, yes. So
very good. I like that, DNC press.
It's the DNC press office. Okay. So with all the people on the set,
that's what I mean. Why don't they just call the votes?
Just call the votes. If they think they've got them, do it now and just be done with it. Why go through the?
Basically said today he's not going to let State Department people go over there. So, and you just heard Adam Schiff say, "Well, that's obstruction of justice." So there you go.
So here's the thing: you are correct in calling him the prosecutor in that if he is going to be one of the trial managers to present the case to the Senate, then he's a prosecutor. He is the chairman of the Intel Committee. He's not supposed to be a hyper-partisan. If he's conducting the hearing, you don't put the prosecutor with the gavel, right? You're not supposed to anyway.
And he's chairman of Intel now?
He's chairman of House Intel.
I mean, that is scary because, as I said, I do not trust this guy. This guy, and if I were the intelligence services, I wouldn't trust him either. This guy will take classified information, in my view, and he will expose it if it advances his political agenda and his personal star. I firmly believe that.
So they get to
and I do not, as we've said, I do not believe that of any other Democrat I can think of right now.
So they get to the panel, and the panel hears that as though, man, this is getting critical mass. We're finally getting close, and they're all talking amongst themselves about, where the news really, where they want the news to go. And Chuck sends it to Hugh, and Hugh absolutely whacked them all and got them to just take a step back because he said real news was made in this show, and all of you missed it. Here's what Hugh said.
I want to pick up on something that Professor Kern said, which is He was my student.
I was her student.
I told you
she
I
was like 10.
Everybody.
She was like 10. But the most important thing that was said this morning thus far is Adam Schiff came on and he went full Alice in Wonderland, Queen of Hearts. Verdict first, trial later. I believe he destroyed his credibility this morning on this show as a fair arbiter of this process. The key other thing about is there enough time, is there a middle? That middle is tired of investigating President Trump. It has gone on for 2 years, and the most interesting part of the Nancy Pelosi decision to go for a fast impeachment is the implicit but very real concession that the Mueller report had no impeachable offense, no obstruction, no collusion. It's gone. They have erased it from the record. So Adam Schiff is biased, and Nancy Pelosi has admitted that Mueller exonerated Trump.
So 2 things that Hugh said in there, and they were all like, oh, crap, he's right. They went to the break, and they all, under their breath, muttered, yet he's right. We didn't catch it.
Can you say that word on this podcast?
I just did.
Oh, okay. I can't bleep you away, can I?
No.
So anyway, the only thing is that Hugh said news was made on this part. Who out there listening on the universe right now believes, before this podcast started at all, believe that Adam Schiff was a fair arbiter or an impartial judge of anything?
I understand that. You're missing the point. The point is Hugh just got people to focus on the only part of that interview that nobody would have otherwise focused on.
Well, but did they talk about it on air?
Yes.
Afterwards?
Afterwards, they did start to go back to it, and Hugh wouldn't get off it. He said that was the news of the show, and Hugh said off air during the break, they all nodded, admitted, yeah, that was really going too far for him. That's not going to look good, and that was the whole buzz of the takeaway of Meet the Press was what Hugh said, and how he portrayed what Adam Schiff did. That became the takeaway of that entire show.
Yeah. All right. Well, except that everything about this entire thing the last 2 years has been verdict first, trial next. There is nothing remotely fair, impartial, nonpartisan, anything about this at all, including on Meet the Press, except for Hugh.